Hello, everyone. It's
Mhm.
great to see you here. We're seeing many participants join. Hello, Aaron, Fabrizio, Adriana, Lisa, Michelle, Myra, Michelle, Myra, let's see, Nicole, Purba, Tej, Zikian, Alvarez. Many names I recognize from yesterday as well. Welcome everyone from locations all over California. Welcome, Philippe, Grace, Amy, so many wonderful people, and so glad to have you all here. Looks like we have a nice little group, and we're 3 minutes into our time, so we can get going. For those of you who didn't attend yesterday, T is going to be leading us out. He is really an exceptional mindfulness teacher. He taught an amazing session yesterday and told us his story about how mindfulness really transformed his life, and he's taken this as his life path. And he was teaching us social connection yesterday, and I hope we all felt that connection in the chat. Great to have you back, Nicole. Thank you. Today, he's going to be telling us about grief and joy and how there's all these different emotions that we all can hold together when we feel. I know that when I feel passionately about something, it makes me feel joyful, but sometimes it also makes me grieve because of whatever that kind of situation that thing is in. And so important to feel all the emotions, and I'm sure Tees can tell us so much more about that. I also want to tell you all that I hope that on every campus there is a Stand Up for Science March that's happening. I know we have one in San Diego. I know we have one in San Francisco. But I hope it's there on every campus. Please go attend your city's Stand Up for Science March. We need this free speech, free expression, free access to knowledge, that knowledge is power, that we should be creating new knowledge and not defunding science. Instead, we should be defending science and all of such endeavors. So the times that we live in, it's time to be socially connected with others and feel the power of protesting together. So I really recommend this Friday, everybody going out to their protest. And feeling the social connection that he was talking about yesterday. And with that, I'm going to leave it to T to do his magical work. Thank you so much for joining us, T.
Thanks for having me. What a sweet introduction, Jyoti. So, welcome everybody. I think in a second they're gonna spotlight my head to be real big, so watch out for that. Here we go. Good to be back. Good to see some familiar names. Yeah, maybe I can thread that activism into my little talk tonight too, because it just resonates with not only the topic yesterday of social connection, but kind of today we're talking about grief and joy and that range of emotions that Jyoti talked about. So today I will share a little bit more of my personal story, and I'll speak about grief, and I'll offer some hopefully useful metaphors to help wrap your minds and hearts around these topics, and have some dialogue in the chat. I hope y'all are ready to get typing. If you haven't already, I guess you don't have to yet, but I just want to make sure you click on everyone in the chat so you're not typing just to host, but just to everyone. And I'll just ask little simple questions here and there to see if we can get some engagement, some social connection. Um, so today's topic, grief and joy, will, yeah, let's just get started. Let's jump right in. So some perspectives and tips on grief. We'll start there, getting to know grief. Um, the world is on fire in many ways, literally, metaphorically, even in our personal lives, perhaps, the grind culture, the hustle, just the greed, hatred, and delusion that seem to be driving, I would say, the whole, the world in many ways. And I even see it in myself, to be real. Like that's the honesty from this mindfulness practice, is you start to see where am I a little bit clinging to something, and where am I a little bit like fighting habitually, and where am I a little deluded? And so greed, hatred, and delusion, kind of as a just a reality to come to confront and to learn to be with and to free ourselves from these kind of old habits. Um, so world is on fire. This stuff, greed, hatred, and delusion are kind of profitable in the short term. So there's no mistaking why it's kind of so loud and powerful in our world. And so I want to say, like, basically, there's nothing wrong with you. If you're feeling grief that the world is on fire and you're feeling like, God, I cannot stand this, I'm overwhelmed, it's not because there's something wrong with you. Um, Life is hard. Being a human being is hard, just across the board. I feel like that's like this lesson that I learned at some point in my adolescence. Nobody ever told me that my whole life. I just thought that if life was hard, then maybe I'm not doing it right. That was my basic assumption. Something I'm doing is not right. I just got to figure it out. Like life should not be hard. Seems like it's so easy for these other people, but I guarantee you it's not. Though being a human is hard. Just take that in for a second. It's hard. And so I have this metaphor about that. Like, so bear with me for this fun little story I made up. So imagine this guy, and he's got a little fish tank in his house or his apartment, his dorm room. And the fish tank, the fish keep on dying. And his friend comes over and he's like complaining to his friend, like, why does fish keep on dying in this fish tank? I go to the fish store, I put one in the tank. 2 days later, and 1 day later, it's dead. Like I've done it like 10 times. This fish store is selling me bunk fish. And he's all pissed off. And the friend comes and he's looking at it and he's like, bro, you got a dirty fish tank. You have never cleaned that fish tank. He said, that is disgusting. Of course the fish are dying, you know? So there's nothing wrong with the fish. And so that's like the metaphor is for us. So for you, before you start thinking, man, there must be something wrong with me, like something something's not right, it's my fault, whatever. Look around and see if you're not swimming in a dirty ass fish tank, pardon my language, but like, is there not a systems of oppression that are dominating in our society? You're not surrounded by, maybe you're surrounded by people who are kind of mean or like, or even just the systems around us? So let me know if that metaphor makes any sense in the chat, the dirty fish tank. Before you see nasty thoughts about yourself, you gotta remember, oh, wait a second, that's just a dirty fish tank. It's not, yeah. Okay. That makes sense to Myra. Thank you, Myra. Okay, good. All right. It's making sense. Thanks. So, um, I got another metaphor I'm building up to. So the other thing is around grief is on one hand, it's just like, do we even have access to our grief? For me, I didn't for most of my life. There's reasons why we might not, we're trained. For me, it was like a boys don't cry. And so I was really good at not crying. Um, and some folks, tears is the only way to express. I know friends who say that, raised as a female in their family or their society, there wasn't space for anger. And so there was only, they have a lot of tears, but they don't have other emotions, or something like that. There's just ways that we can struggle for different reasons, sometimes based on our identities and how we're treated. Um, but basically, I didn't cry for a long, long time until I found a space that was safe enough. Like there was enough space for me to actually feel the hardship and let it move through me. And I knew nobody was going to like make fun of me or hurt me or something like that. It was actually at a meditation retreat when I was doing a meditation like similar to what we'll do later. But I really felt calm, safe, comfortable. And then after 10 years of never shedding a tear, I was able to actually feel something and like let it move through me. And it's this natural healing process that humans have, and other mammals too. There's like natural kind of healing process. And so, yeah, why don't I get to this metaphor So think of a mug of water. You got a little mug of water, and you take a salt cube, a cube of salt, you drop it in the water, and it'll dissolve and it'll be pretty bitter, real salty, like really intense, you know? But if you had a big, big pool of water, big old pool of water, and you drop that salt cube in, it would dissolve, it would integrate, and it'd be almost even not noticeable, not even a big deal, but it would go through. And so in that way, it's like if we're going to work with grief and really come to know it, it can really help to like first step is kind of find the space, create the space. Um, for me, one example was a meditation retreat. Journaling helped me kind of make space in my heart and mind to like see something with a little bit of distance. And then also with others, with people, someone listening to me with kind attention. There's space. They're sharing their pool of water. And then my little salt cube can have more space. Because if I'm alone in my room by myself and I'm trying to feel the hard stuff and cry about it, or even if I could cry about it, I don't know if you notice this, but sometimes even if you can cry about things, it doesn't feel healing. Like if you're just stuck alone trying to move through grief, but your cup is this small, kind of get stuck. It doesn't quite move the same way. So having a friend, having space, and then the final thing I'll offer is nature, going out into the spaciousness of nature, being held by other beings, other more than human beings, the trees, the sky, the birds, the earth. And there's ways that these kind of spaces and natural environments can create that space for that salt cube of grief and other difficult emotions to move through. Um, So let me go back. I appreciate Philippe in the chat reminded me. I usually when I tell that fish tank story, um, yeah, not only can we not blame ourselves and know that it's dirty water, but we can organize to clean the fish tank. We can go to the protests on Friday, get together with other people, and actually make change to start to clean up that water so that we're not all and all of our offspring and all of our friends are all swimming in that dirty water. Okay, so I'm gonna engage y'all in the chat one more time, real simple. Um, well, let me share my screen first and then I'll ask you. Basically, I want to hear if you do have some access to tears or tears of joy, tears of sadness, where is it pretty easy to access it? For me, it's this scene in this movie. Oh my God, every time. I don't know if y'all are hip to Coco, but if you haven't watched Coco, wow, tears. And they feel like they're sad, but they're also beautiful. You know what I mean? Like not all tears are bad. I'm moving through grief in a beautiful way. Beginning of Up. Thank you, Myra. That's what people keep telling me that. I've never seen that movie, but I gotta watch it because I'm a sentimentalist now. So anybody else, please. Beginning of Up. I see some people agreeing with that. Anybody else? What else? What's a movie scene or a music? Perhaps a music, a song, or a person? I know my grandfather was like that for my aunts and my cousins. Like they just see him and they start crying because they knew he could kind of hold their feelings and their who they were. Hallmark commercials, I'm a sucker for crying at commercials too. I think it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, Sigur Rós, Halo, Beyonce. Okay, I'm gonna check that one out. I do know the song, but I've never kind of felt into it, I think. Great. Oh, Encanto. Oh my God. Thank you, everybody. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on from the grief thing to its kind of parallel, its sibling of joy. Joy is one word. I think that's a kind of a big word. I mean, it's like kind of like a big emotion. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big, exuberant joy. And so I have this tattoo actually that explains this. I love this concept mudita so much. Mudita is a word in the old ancient language of Pali, and we don't quite have a word for it in English, but mudita means like appreciative joy or sympathetic joy. It's translated a few different ways, just like unselfish delight. But what it is, examples are good for this. So it's like when I see a baby, it doesn't even have to be my baby. It's like if I just see a little kid learning something, he's like so proud, you can see it in their face. They're just like learning how to stand or whatever. There's that feeling in me that just seeing that other person's delight, it bubbles up in me. There's a mirrored neurons, there's like a response. It's not a joy that's mine. I didn't have to go out and find the perfect thing and get the joy for me, but it's a shared joy that's just like in resonance, like a resonant delight. So that's the mudita. That's the kind of joy I want us to explore and talk about. Um, because um, Well, first of all, does that make sense? You get what this, if I say the word mudita again? Great, Jyoti, thanks for putting in. Hindi does also keep that word. English, we kind of lost it. If anybody has another word that's another language that they have that word, that'd be awesome. I only know of kind of, yeah, South Asian, East Asian traditions that have something like that. But does that make sense? You got it. Vicarious joy. Okay, people are getting it. Vicarious joy. I love that way of talking about it. So the question, I mentioned this last night, like what feels like the loud question is like, why are we talking about joy when the world is on fire? You know? Um, great. Oh, look at that. Freudenfreude. It's like the opposite of Schadenfreude or whatever, like the German word that's like you are happy when your enemy fails or something like that. So it's kind of the opposite of that. Oh, this is great. Um, so yeah, why delight and joy when the world's on fire? And for me, this mindfulness practice, one of the best things I love about it is that it's asking us to like just see clearly. It's not asking us to like be all rainbows and unicorns and like push away the negative and manifest positive vibes, bro. Not like that. It's not this spiritual bypassing situation. It's about seeing clearly. And if we're trying to see reality clearly and there's a negativity bias, I don't know if y'all heard about this, but like the scientists are finding that there tends to be a negativity bias in our habits of our brain. And like so the hard stuff of our day is like Velcro for our brains and the good stuff is like Teflon. And so, you have 100 good things happen in a day, and then that one person says that messed up thing to you. What are you going to think about at the end of the day when you're going to sleep? That nagging one thing. So this negativity bias, our mind gets sucked into what's wrong. And so check it out for yourself. I don't know. Everybody I ask, this is true for them when they look. But um, so if we keep getting sucked into what's wrong, then we're not actually seeing the whole of reality. And so just for balance sake, just for clarity's sake, it makes sense to lean a little bit to noticing what's not a problem, what's beautiful, what's joyful, what's delightful. Even what's in the middle, what I think about is just like what doesn't suck. What doesn't suck right now is a sweet relief from the negativity bias. Okay, so we're going to practice with these things. Um, there's all sorts of other reasons if I had more time. I did an hour-long talk on this last week, so I'm cramming it in here. But the one other concept I want to offer is glimmers. This idea of glimmers is almost like the opposite of triggers. A trigger is some small thing that then blows up and reminds you of something terrible and messes up your nervous system. A glimmer is something that's small little delight that when we pay attention to it, it actually grows and organizes our nervous system or settles it or like feels delightful. Some little thing. So it's like a trigger for goodness. So glimmers, often small, subtle moments that spark joy or safety or connection or well-being in our nervous system. All right, before we move on, does that make sense? Does anybody Can we get some engagement in the chat? What's a glimmer for you? For instance, the feeling of warm sunlight on your face, or for me, it's the seeing the trees, the tops of trees on a clear day. What's up, chat? Good food. What you got, chat? Nostalgic music. Yes, looking for moments of awe. The beautiful thing about this is moments of awe are in the neutral range often, you know? We don't have to go to a foreign destination and find the most beautiful beach and sunset. Like the glimmer of the sunset on my window is pretty sweet in my boring little apartment. Yeah. Great. Yeah. All right. The chat is alive with some deliciousness. So read the chat if you have a second. You can delight in their delight. And that's mudita. Okay. So before we run out of time, we should do a little practice of this. So I want to ease into a little kind of mini meditation. So why don't you just let your body find a glimmer, which means like just let it lead the way and find some ease. So it might just be like, oh, I'm relaxing now. There's a little glimmer of my cold hands on my warm neck and a sigh. We can have these little bits of goodness or even just what's not a problem in our own body. Perhaps the breath, soothing breath is a nice little glimmer. And so I want to invite us for the next minute to just open your eyes and look around and see if the eyes can't find a sweet little thing they're interested in, a nice little delight. And this is, again, it's not a big, huge, mind-blowing joy. It's not the most blowing your mind awe experience, but just even what doesn't suck. You know, the eyes might look around and be like, oh, there's this mess. I got to clean up all this stuff. Your mind starts jumping in about what the story of what you see, but let the eyes actually like sniff around and see what shapes and textures that they're drawn to, or images, or if you're lucky enough to be able to see a plant or another living being. You know, nice little glimmers through the eyes. What doesn't suck? And then let's look in the body now. Again, feeling into the body and seeing what would allow for even just 1% more ease in this moment. It's almost like we just open and make space for a little mini glimmer. Notice where there's no pain. How sweet is it to not have a toothache or a searing headache right now? How sweet is it to just invite the jaw and the shoulders to relax? There's no deadlines, there's nothing to pull off and do in the next couple minutes. There's the sweetness of just a little bit of ease in this moment. Of relaxing the belly and letting the belly be soft and full with each breath. So the eyes can be open, taking in the goodness, or they can just be closed, and you can start to notice other little bits of sweetness, like even just the soundscape can be quite simple, wholesome delight. Hearing, the spacious receptiveness of hearing. Resting the body. You have something soft under the fingertips. You might let the fingers just move a little bit and feel the sweetness of softness under the fingertips. Just call to mind, just do a little brief visualization of just call to mind somebody in your life who's alive, who's got something that's going well for them. You've got a little bit of delight, they're finally done with that project they're working on. They're excited about going to the protest tomorrow, and they're delighting. They're happy it's finally Wednesday, or they just had a baby, or they got good news. So just call to mind somebody for whom something's going well, and see if you can't see their face, see their little smile, even just seeing them doing what they like to do. Can't think of anybody. It could even really just be a dog, happy little dog or cat. You just visualize this being, and then we're gonna just offer these kind gestures, words of encouragement, or words of mudita, really. May your joy continue. May your good fortune deepen and grow. May it nourish your whole nervous system. Just way to go. I'm happy for you. You can just thank you for being you. Any other phrase in any language that helps you feel that mudita. Yes, yes, more of this for you. So sweet. You can allow yourself to feel a smile if mudita brings a smile. Yes, I delight in your gladness, delight in your well-being. It's radiating, it's impacting me. I wish you more of this. And then just notice how your body is experiencing this mudita. Did you just sigh? Do you feel lighter, heavier? How's the chest and belly? Is there a smile? And then just because of time, we'll bring this meditation to a close. Come back together again at your own pace. You might say goodbye to that being in your mind. Thank you. We'll come back together. Get your typing fingers ready in the chat as we close out. Um, so how was that? Y'all doing all right? You have a sense of what mudita is or how it feels? Keep an eye out for glimmers. Anybody in the chat, how y'all doing? As we wait to hear from people, I just want to normalize that sometimes envy can come up. We try to cultivate mudita and the opposite arises. And that's normal. That's okay. Um, and we're not going to be perfect mudita people every time. It's normal to be envious. But sometimes just having the option that mudita is also an option, it's like, oh, I don't have to be competitive at every place. I actually can feel mudita for this person. So you can't force it, but you can notice when it's available to feel this appreciative joy. Rejoice in others. Thank you, Philippe. Another great translation from mudita. Great. So I just want to close out, respecting your time, and just my tip again would be just look for glimmers. Play with this. It's every moment. You don't have to be in a meditation. You can be walking down the street any moment. Just keep your eye out. Just orienting in that way can help kind of disempower that negativity bias, and it can start to balance things out. See if it's nourishing for your nervous system. Yeah, see how it feels. See what the impacts are for yourself. And yeah. So I don't think we have too much time for questions. Let's see if there's any organic questions coming up in the chat, but feel free to throw them in there. And before we close, I'll share my QR code that it was a hit yesterday. So if you take your phone out real quick and put your camera onto this image, look at that. I'll make it smaller. It'll be easier to do. And if you camera that, that takes you to dharmahomies.com. That's where I lead, me and my team lead morning meditations, 8:45 a.m. every single day, 7 days a week, coming up on 5 years in a row without missing a day. Like in 10 days, we've done 5 years in a row. So it's a sweet little community. Drop in. You don't have to pay to get in. You just show up. And so go to dharmahomies.com. And if you don't come there, just keep signing up for this kind of stuff. Sign up for the climate resilience course. Show up to that protest on Friday. Action, take action. That's a huge, huge way to break the isolation, make space, make a bigger pool for those salt cubes, the inevitable salt cubes of this human life.